Okay, we're going to call the Board of Trustees special call meeting to order. Entertain a motion for approval of the agenda and for the special called meeting committee of the whole.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve both of the agendas with two changes to the agenda for the special called meeting, and that is that we approve 5A, policy JIH, second reading, and 5D, the slight adjustment to the academic calendar, as part of the motion to approve the agenda. The reason being is that JIH was on our last agenda for second reading. There have been no changes. It's merely just a formal vote. And the adjustment to the academic calendar is pretty self-explanatory. We're changing the Friday to the correct half-day related to the Easter break.
Second.
Okay. Probably moving second. Julie, you have that? Okay.
Oh, do we have to vote? I'm sorry.
Yes.
I turned off my computer. You're going to need to voice vote.
I can do that.
And I'll get it open for everything else.
Yes.
Okay, motion passed 7-0. Item C is the Compass Collegiate Academy Charter School presentation, and they're here with us today. If you'd like to just introduce yourselves to us. And
Sure. So my name is Hunter Schimpf. I'm the chair of the board. Chairman, before we get started, we'll do introductions during our presentation. But respectfully, before our presentation and for the record, we had requested an adjusted day and time to present due to the very short notice for our public hearing. We were notified on Thursday that the hearing would be today, and thus it was difficult for us to be able to have the majority of our charter planning committee here on less than 48 hours business notice. The time was adjusted again on Friday with 24 business hours notice. So 3 of us that are here today were able to scramble our plans and make it today, but we had hoped to present in person with our full charter committee. For the record, I would also like to make an objection to how the review of our application has proceeded in the format of today's agenda. In short, we do not believe there has been a proper consideration of the merits for our charter application and our efforts to serve Charleston families and students. We believe that we are entitled to a public hearing as required by the Charter Act. Today's agenda has no allocated time for public comment, and the board's discussion to approve or deny our charter is set for executive session. So we object to the discussion to approve or deny our charter application in executive session. And we would ask you to rule that our discussion to approve or deny the charter will be held in public session, and then the vote be held in public session.
okay.
Could I ask for a ruling on that, please?
Well, we'll take that into consideration. You can go ahead and move forward with your presentation.
Can I ask a question, clarifying question?
Well,
Before you proceed, someone, ask them before you proceed. Were you asking for a new date to be heard? I'll be trying to understand what your request is.
We're here, we would just like that the public discussion be, or the discussion to approve or deny our charter be held in public session, not executive session.
But you said, but you're okay with that, but note the time, the notice you have received?
We're not okay with it, but we're here today and we're ready to present now. So.
All right, thank you, sir.
so your request is duly noted. We will discuss this in executive session, and whatever our recommendation will be done in public session. Okay?
All right, so just to lay out our time today, I know we have 15 minutes before questions, so we'll briefly run down who we are, the need as we see it in Charleston. We'll go through our purpose, our model, and then we'll be ready to take your questions and answers. All right, so who we are. My name is Hunter Schimpf. I'm the chair of the board. My background is I have worked for the state charter district for 2.5 years. I resigned in January to undertake this venture. I'm doing some independent K-12 consulting. Prior to working for the state charter authorizer here in South Carolina, I worked for the Tennessee Charter School Incubator, where we helped launch new charter schools in Memphis and Nashville. And some of those schools that we incubated out of the incubator are now Tennessee's highest performing public schools. They've received Tennessee Reward School designations, and one school, Ballard Collegiate, has been in the top 1% for growth and achievement. So my colleague, Marcus, will give some second.
Good afternoon. My name is Marcus Bryant. I serve as vice chair on the board. I have a background in human resource management and diversity training consulting here in the city. Prior to that role, I'd also served as a higher education administrator and manager for some other private companies here in Charleston.
I'm Eric Strickland. I have traded commodities and managed investments with various hedge funds and international banks for the last 20 years. Over the last 4 years, I've started Casabo Scholars, which is an after-school mentoring program for under-resourced kids that focuses on lacrosse and just a growth mindset. I have also started Horizons at Ashley Hall, which is the first affiliate in South Carolina of an award-winning national summer academic enrichment program for under-resourced girls. And we launched this last summer with 30 students from CCSD, and we'll have 45 this summer.
So our board members who couldn't be here, Dr. Brittany Bryant, she, just for transparency, is married to Marcus Bryant. Their children attend Meeting Street Academy. Another board member, Jared Carlson, couldn't be here. He's away on business in Miami. Jamie Downey is actually a teacher, instructional coach at Zucker Middle School, was CCSD's Teacher of the Year in 2014. And then Perry McClellan is a small business attorney here in Charleston. So that's our board. So why are we here? Why did we go through the crazy task of trying to start a charter school in Charleston? So I would start with this, taken from the recent diversity study on the district. CCSD must address the stark divide between high-performing and low-performing schools due to the low achievement by children of color and poverty that exists at all academic levels of the system. Solutions to address the historically underachievement by a high percentage of the district's children of color and poverty must involve the wider community. That's why we're here.
I just want to move on just to address the need in terms of elementary schools. Based on last year's elementary school ratings, we see that 7 out of 15 of these schools are performing at an unsatisfactory level. 4 out of 15 are below average. Another 4 out of 15 are average, where we have none that are rated good or excellent. And as a parent to 2 school-aged children and another daughter who will be headed that way here shortly, I'm just deeply disturbed as I send my children out into the world, into these communities. We should all rally around this idea that we need schools that are academically performing at a good or excellent level.
And with the middle school ratings, the data looks slightly better, but as the parent of 3 middle schoolers, you can pray for me now or later, please. There are only 3 schools rated excellent, none of which my children have a reasonable chance of getting into or attending.
The data, we think, speaks for itself. On the next slide, we've looked at, this is 2018 choice data from your own district. We'll let you read the chart for a little bit. But what I want to call out here is that only 1 in 4 applications is getting a seat in choice schools on the peninsula. Some of those choice schools are countywide choice schools, and we understand that and realize that. But there is a high demand for high-quality schools. And this doesn't even cover the 9,000 elementary and middle school students attending school on the peninsula. So we see there is a significant need for a high-quality school serving all scholars, and that's why we are proposing our school today. So why do we exist? So Compass Collegiate Academy exists to provide a rigorous academic foundation and the habits of mind that will prepare scholars to live purposely oriented lives as citizen scholars. So we are proposing to be a K-8 school that would, if approved, start with K-1 in year 1 and grow a grade each year till we're fully built out for K-8. So our vision is that Compass Collegiate Academy seeks to partner with the Charleston community to be a first-of-its-kind proof point for the city, an open enrollment public school that is intentional about ensuring access and equity for all scholars, including children of color and poverty, while still delivering a high-achieving learning environment. So the demand that we highlighted, what you all know from the Clemson Diversity Study, we have essentially prepared a school to address that need. So how specifically do we plan on serving all scholars while being a high-achieving school? There are a few things I'd call out that are intentional in our school design and our model, and some things that we've considered. Number one is we think that it starts at our board governance and leadership level. We have intentionally focused on building a diverse governing body because we believe that stronger leadership bodies with diverse perspectives and backgrounds translates into a higher capacity and better leadership at the governing level. Data on successful charter schools nationwide would tell you this. Diverse boards are better boards. Number two, we thought very strategically about where we're going to locate. We want to be proximate to diverse neighborhoods. And so in our application, we've identified a number of facility sites, all with a plan of being proximate to diverse neighborhoods to serve a diverse set of scholars. Number three, if you all are not aware, the state does not provide transportation funding to charter schools. Regardless of that, we have planned to offer transportation to our scholars and have budgeted for that. It's a very expensive line item, but we believe to truly be a public school and serve all scholars, we must provide transportation to enable scholar access and equity. So we've built that into our budget and our model. Number four, hiring and developing the best teachers and leaders that reflect the students being served. We understand that if we're going to serve students of color, students of poverty, it doesn't make sense to have an all-white staff, for example. So we're going to be strategic about recruiting the best teachers and leaders to serve the community that we're seeking to serve. Not only is it hiring the best teachers and leaders, but as our application highlights, we're focused on developing them as well. And I'm happy to get into that, any kind of question after. Number six is that we've intentionally built our academic model to serve a diverse set of families. There are different models that appeal to different families. We have built our model based on some of the schools I mentioned, namely Nashville Classical and Valor Collegiate in Tennessee and Nashville. That are highly successful public schools. And we've taken the best of both from them, which serve diverse student bodies, and put that into our model that is before you today. Number seven, I think we highlighted it in our mission and vision statement, and it's worth reiterating. Number seven is we at the board level and any school leader that we hire, our North Star will be serving all scholars, including special populations, students with disabilities, students with, who are English language learners. I was at the state charter district for 2.5 years. I can tell you and speak very candidly, some charter schools in South Carolina, even some here in Charleston County, are white flight schools. I can tell you and assure you we are going to be farthest from that as possible. We are not creating a charter school to be a white flight public school. We are creating a public school to serve all scholars because we see that the need for all scholars is very high. So briefly, I just want to touch upon our model and then we'll be ready for any questions. So number one, we believe that the road to college begins in kindergarten. So our school has a college prep focus in its curriculum in the way that we're structured with our daily schedule, our weekly schedule. All of that is designed to prepare scholars for college. Number two, in terms of if you ask, oh, what's your school model? I would say really there are two core pillars. Number one is a rigorous academic foundation with an intense focus on early literacy skills, which is consistent with the state's Read to Succeed Act. And number two is a daily social emotional curriculum program. The reason for that is if we're going to truly prepare scholars for post-secondary pursuits, we believe that they need not only a rigorous academic foundation to be able to read, write well, do math at a high level, they need the non-cognitive soft skills to be successful in post-secondary. So our K-8 model is designed to address that and serve scholars. I've said it again, and I'll say it repeatedly throughout our presentation, we are a school whose intentional design components and the way we've allocated our budgets our priorities to serve all scholars. So our staffing model, the way we spend money on transportation, is designed to serve all scholars because we embrace the fact that charter schools are public schools and they should be serving all scholars. Number 4, I mentioned it briefly, we're going to focus on hiring the great people, but also developing them. So in our curriculum, in our academic model, the time we've devoted in our daily and weekly schedule, at the end of our weekly schedule, for example, every Friday for 2 hours, we have early dismissal, and the reason for that is we have a dedicated professional development block to really develop our teachers. Aside from the live coaching and continuous development they get on a weekly basis, we're going to have that 2-hour block to step aside, look at scholar data for the week, and plan successfully for the next week so that we're driven and allocating our time and our money specifically to scholar growth. So as I mentioned, another thing I would like to highlight about our model is this intense focus on early literacy skills. So similar to Meeting Street, but not in all grades, we're planning to put 2 teachers in every classroom in K2. We'll also be guided by the STEP assessment. It's a formative assessment that leading public schools, and successful charter schools around the country have used. So we will use that to drive scholar learning growth on a weekly and monthly basis. If you also look at our weekly schedule, we've simply devoted more time. We know that scholars who are behind need more time on task in these core subjects of math and ELA, and so we've built that into our model in our daily and weekly schedule. So with that, I ran through very quickly, somewhat by design, to be able to take questions, and we're welcome to take any questions at this point.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. Is there any questions from any of the board members? Reverend Collins, and then Ms. Darby.
Let Ms. Darby go first.
All right, Ms. Darby.
And thank you for being here, as you said, a little short notice. And I may have missed this, but can you tell us a little bit more about, you say it's not going to be a white flight school, and we know that certainly has been a challenge here in Charleston, but how are you going to do recruitment, and how are you going to, if it's an open enrollment school, how are you going to select kids? What if 75% white children apply, how are you going to do that?
Thank you for that question. So it's my mistake, and I actually didn't mention this. It was on our slide here. So similar to some schools in Nashville, so we are a very data-rich school, including everything we do around enrollment and application. We are driven by data. And so as we go out and intentionally canvass, knock doors, go to community centers, we have a strategic plan around going to diverse neighborhoods.
Okay.
So we will reach diverse neighborhoods dependent on what works for one neighborhood or another to reach parents and families. That's step 1, I would say, is a very intentional outreach marketing campaign. Number 2 is that we will be tracking all of our application by zip code. And so if we start to see that one zip code is more representative than another in our application pool, we will shift resources and efforts into a zip code that's, say, less underrepresented to ensure that we're getting a more diverse applicant pool. These other components, we believe that over time will maintain a diverse student body. And I think above all that, to highlight, it's something at the board level that we value. So if some of our numbers are off over time, we're driven by a statutory requirement in the Charter Act. I'm aware of it. We're holding schools accountable to it at the state district to within 20% of the local district. We will monitor this data at the board level and shift resources and efforts accordingly to ensure that we have a diverse student body over time and that we're serving the students and families that are representative of the neighborhoods that we serve.
Okay, thank you.
Reverend Collins.
Thank you for being present today. Could you elaborate a little bit on your commission statement?
Yes, sir. So, as I mentioned, for us, we are looking long-term to prepare scholars for post-secondary pursuits of their choice, really. One of the challenges we see right now in student outcomes is students are not prepared to pursue a four-year college degree or to pursue a technical vocation. Coming out of public schools, they're not prepared with the academic foundation nor the habits of mind or study skills. So our mission statement speaks to a few things that we value very closely. One is that providing a rigorous academic foundation with the purpose of enabling scholars, and we intentionally use that word scholars, to become successful citizens in our city. And so we're driven by that mission statement. We see an intense need in North Charleston on the peninsula, and we want to prepare scholars to pursue the vocation and the post-secondary pursuit of their choosing, and our school is designed to do that.
Would it be a fair statement to say you're interested in targeting underperforming students?
Yes, sir. That's a core part of our model, serving a diverse set of scholars, including students who academically are behind, traditional student groups, students of poverty who have not fared very well in public schools. Our public school is designed to serve those scholars and other scholars who live in Park Circle neighborhood, Wagner Terrace. Our plan is to equally serve scholars from Park Circle, Wagner Terrace, Chicora, Liberty Hill. We want to recruit scholars and serve them at a high level from all of those neighborhoods, and we believe we can do that well.
So how can you afford to provide 2 teachers in each classroom?
Thank you for that question. So given our budget flexibility, our staffing model, we have scheduled our lead teachers to actually, they're about step 5 of Charleston County's current teacher pay scale. So we pay our lead teachers at a more competitive rate than Charleston County. And then we do an instructional assistant, is that second teacher in the classroom. And so with that model, part of it, to be very frank too, is part of our own internal human capital pipeline development. So a teacher at our school will receive continuous coaching and training. Those lead teachers will coach their instructional assistants. And we expect that some of those instructional assistants will become our lead teachers in second year, third year, fourth year. We're really focused on developing teachers within our culture, which we believe to be, again, based on some of the leading public schools around the country.
I'll yield in case someone else wants to ask a question.
Correct.
Then I
Ms.
come
Green?
back.
Looking at the information you sent to us with regards to some of the potential locations
Yes, ma'am.
for the schools, do you think you'll be in competition with schools like the Mini Street at Brentwood and Burns?
No, ma'am. We think we'll be located relatively in the same geography, but I would point to there are 9,000 elementary and middle schools on the peninsula, which we see as our potential scholars that we'll serve. So given that in year 1 we expect to serve 100 scholars, when we're fully built out serving 720, if you take that 720 number in K-8, that doesn't even match the number of scholars who are not getting seats on. Sorry. This demand slide right here. So if you take the number of scholars who are not getting seats in the choice schools on the peninsula, our 720 at full capacity, which is 9 years from now, wouldn't even match that number.
I have
No idea where that's coming from.
It's probably coming from the audio from.
Oh, yep. Hold on, stop. Let me do it. Sorry. That's okay. Oh, is it here? Well, let's turn it down.
I just turn your volume off.
Right there. Wait, function. Right here. There you go. God, sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, if it was this afternoon, I figured you probably would have been watching the national championship.
That's coming
And you
later.
would be right.
To answer your question, we don't believe we're going to be competing with them because there is such a significant demand of those families applying for choice school seats. again, those students who don't get a seat, our expected population, we wouldn't even serve that number. On top of, based on the data we've looked at, there are 9,000 elementary and middle school scholars on the peninsula.
But there's no way really to avoid a potential conflict in terms of the same students that may be going to, I'm just using that as an example. There's really no
Sure.
guarantee that you will not be after some of the same kids, or some of the same families won't respond to your request to attend your school.
At the end of the day, it's a family's choice on where they would like to attend. I will say that I have a very good relationship. Dirk Bedford, the principal of Meeting Street Academy, is a friend of mine.
Right.
And so there is a lot of coordination and partnership on that end to where we could easily work out, like, hey, those are zone student populations at Brentwood and Burns. And so if it's something, if they say, hey, don't recruit in our, sort of neighborhood, we're happy to respect that. We have a lot of respect for Meeting Street Academy and work very well with them.
My other question has nothing to do with that, but Mr. Bryant, are you and Miss Bryant, Dr. Bryant, related?
Yes, that's my wife.
That's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Coates?
Yes, so I have a couple of questions, and we've talked, and I feel like you have the ability to effectively answer difficult questions, and you've put a lot of time into this career path, so I'll say that up front. But in your initial needs assessment, you determined a number of students who applied to very specific educational options. You selected Montessori and arts. Is it your contention that those applicants to those schools are not interested in the educational structure of that school as much as just simply getting to that school? And if that's the case, could we not solve that problem by creating more Herseys and James Simmonses?
I would answer that twofold. I would point to these numbers and say there are a number of families not getting seats at these schools, and so we think our potential student population would be serving those scholars. And parents sometimes choose one theme over another, and if they pursue an arts-based education program for their scholar, that may not be exactly what they would find in our model, and we're happy to support them in making a different choice. Well, again, with the numbers, the 9,000 elementary and middle school students, and then back to, I think you're well aware of just the academic performance. We believe above all else, parents pursue high-quality options for their scholars. That's why your chance of getting into Buste at present is less than getting into Harvard. So that school alone, we see significant demand in a signaling from Charleston families that they want a high-quality option. I think at the end of the day, providing a high-quality option is what's going to most attract parents. We've built into our school model something that we think will appeal to, again, a diverse set of families. One thing that we've done slightly innovative is that at our middle school level, we have not planned all of our special classes right now. Part of our school design is to be very intentional about engaging our community and our parents. And so the year before we open middle school, we're going to bring our parents and community in, and they're going to vote and decide on what our specials are. And then we'll staff and prepare curriculum accordingly. But to have that parental input, we thought was very important to what our middle school, and that's also 6 years from now. So who knows what might be computer science, it might be arts, but we're happy to add on that specials based on the input of our parents and our community. And so that's something we've built into our model. To listen to our families and to serve what they are pursuing.
Mr. Chair, I have two more questions. On page 10, in your presentation, you say we're a stronger leadership body. Stronger than whom?
So part of this is based on, there's national research on charter school boards, effective boards leading to effective schools. And there's data around more diverse boards lead to more effective schools. And the reason we believe that we're more effective is that just having different perspectives, having different backgrounds. All of our board members live and or work on the peninsula, in North Charleston, downtown. And so this is our backyard, essentially. And so Being able to have those different perspectives and backgrounds, but all within the same geography, we think will lead to a more effective governing body. There are things that Eric brings with his math and financial background that I don't bring to the board. There are things that Marcus brings with his background in HR, in his community advocacy, that I don't bring to the board. So I think the aggregate of those diverse perspectives just makes us able to lead a school more successfully.
So, and I understand that and I respect that because we've talked about how intentional you were in finding the right people to complement each other. However, public charter school boards will ultimately be elected. Are you going to have requirements for the seats or hope that this legacy continues in future elections?
Sure. So we're not allowed to have specific, qualifiers in our election under statute. But we do, it's a vision for our school, and we have already intentionally thought about that transition to an elected board so that there's continuity from the planning committee to an elected board. I can't predict the future, but I can say in terms of who will be elected to our school board. But it is a vision of our community. And I think if somebody wants to serve on our governing board and they want to be part of that mission and vision, that is something that will be considered. And certainly, similar to recruiting students, we do recruit diverse board members, and that's something that we value and will continue to do.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Hollingshade?
In the area that you want to locate in, you noted in your presentation about 7 failing schools. In your mind, what do you think contributed to that? And then 2, what's going to be different with your program that will significantly change that, dealing with the culture of the community?
Sure. So if I understand your question, are you asking what I think is the issue with these underperforming schools?
Mm-hmm. And then what is going to be so special about your school that you were going to target and change, and how are you going to do that? Because what you tell me, I may not agree with, but I'm waiting to see what you have to say.
Sure. So I'm not a principal or a teacher in every school, so I can't speak to on an individual school basis. I will recognize that poverty is a factor in students' educational backgrounds, and education research would tell you that a student coming from a home of poverty has about 2,000 less words in their vocabulary starting day 1 of kindergarten. We understand all that, and we've built a school model to serve all those scholars. You're asking for specifics, and one of the things that I would point out is that the way that we've targeted, I think something different than the public schools here, is that we've targeted those 2 teachers in K2 classrooms driven by the STEP assessment. So the STEP assessment is from the University of Chicago. It's one of the nation's leading formative assessments around preparing scholars to have those really strong early literacy skills. Meeting Street Academy utilizes it. Marcus, as a parent, could tell you his experience with the STEP assessment. So it's our staffing model, the data-driven program that we use in our school, that live coaching. So in a public school in Charleston, and let me preface all this by saying I'm not here to make judgments or point out what is or what's not working, but we think we can do it differently in that where an evaluation may happen 2 or 3 times a year for a teacher, we're in teachers' classrooms every day and every week. We have staff members who are instructional coaches that will be their job to be focused on high-quality instruction on a daily and weekly basis. So our use of data, our benchmark assessments, our formative assessments, we take data very seriously in terms of driving scholar growth, and we can reteach. We can prepare our professional development based on what data is telling us. After our scholars take the STEP assessment or an interim benchmark assessment, our data may be telling us that our teachers taught a certain standard poorly. That's an opportunity for us to provide both coaching to them and refocus the instruction in professional development on that standard to reteach it so that we reteach it in the moment as soon as possible so that we're not missing it. We don't get to the end of the year, we take a state summative exam, and then it tells us, oh, hey, we missed these 3 or 4 standards. So that kind of use of data, the way we structured our staffing model, the way we go out and recruit and hire leaders, we believe those are the within-school factors that will have a difference. As you have recognized, we will be serving low-income scholars. Part of our school design is to be very intentional about going out to the community and creating a community that supports our school. So one tangible example I would give you, similar to what some other high-quality charter schools do, is that prior to the start of school in August of every year, our teachers and our leadership staff will go out and meet scholars in their homes, subject to mom or dad welcoming us in the door. But the reason for that is to help make a scholar feel more comfortable about coming to school so that they're known. Parents will have teacher cell phones to be able to call them for if a scholar's working on their homework or reading at home and a parent has a question. We as a school are going to be an open door and welcome parents in. And we see them as partners. And so everything we've done around our school model, our focus on reaching out to the community and serving all scholars, we believe will produce better results once all those things are taken together.
Okay, Mr. Garrett?
Well, that's,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, you have another question?
well, yeah, and I'm quickly on that. And most of that, what you're saying is textbook stuff. Dealing with the community that you're talking about in these particular schools, a child may not come into school in the best mind frame that morning. There may be some sort of domestic issue within their household or within their community, bullying. Could be any number of things. So then, how are you prepared to deal with that? Because our public schools deal with that every day, and now it's trying to yield a different result and to engage in students. So then again, I say that to you, and I say that to Mean Street, because they're a new program too. How are you going to engage that child when it's not necessarily a traditional way of dealing with that student?
Yeah, thank you for that question. You want to go ahead?
Yeah. First, I think, in my opinion, you're talking really about me and my upbringing and my childhood. I came from a single-parent home. I came from a very low-income and impoverished area. I remember the traumas and the ills of the day that would distract me from academically performing. And the single most helpful factor for me was to have teachers who cared and the interest of that teacher to say, I'm going to cultivate the things that are strong and not consistently remind you of your trauma and expose you to more trauma while you're here. And I think we have a responsibility as a board to understand there's no other school-based factor that's more important than how that teacher perceives children in the classroom. So our intentionality to recruit at a high level, our intentionality to professionally develop these teachers in a way that deals with the population that they're serving will be the greatest factor in terms of improvement for these types of students that you're talking about.
What type of bridge program would you work on after school hours to deal with that child in their environment that subsequently will help them to have a good afternoon or bring them about into the next day in a positive manner? I'm done, Dr. Mack.
So as part of our model, we have engaged the community, and we intend to develop community partnerships. We have spoken to Metanoia and Dr. Bill Stanfield around a potential partnership. That's potentially in the works. Now, I would highlight, too, within our school model, we do have plans for hiring guidance counselors. And what I would really highlight is our social and emotional curriculum. So that happens on a daily basis where there are prepared lessons to help engage scholars in what is bullying, how to deal with it. That happens in a morning meeting every day, and we do a closing circle every day as well to address things that scholars are facing in the community. We do it in a team. It's classroom-based. So if one scholar is, maybe they didn't have food last night. I don't know what the example would be. They are in a safe setting within their classroom. to address that issue, and teachers will be trained and supported on this social emotional curriculum to enact every day. But we've built that format into our model because given the students and scholars that we intend to serve, we do recognize that those are factors and have prepared to address those needs within our model.
Okay, we're about 10 minutes over our allotted time. We do have an additional question from Mr. Garrett and one from Ms. Jeffrey. So if you can just be brief with your response so that we can stay within the allotted time, okay? We're already over by minutes.
Okay, and just quick, I couldn't find it in here. I know it is. What's the sustainable number for year one for students, budget-wise? For y'all?
Depends. So I'll give you a full answer. So we intend to serve 100 scholars in year one. So our budget is based around that.
Okay.
With charter schools being per pupil enrollment
Right,
driven.
yeah, it depends on who shows up and all.
If our numbers don't, we're prepared to cut and address. And our budget, I will highlight, does not factor any P&I funds in terms of the revenue. So
I saw rent funds. Do you have a proposed location where that you've got lined up for the fall?
So we've been working with 2 agents at Bridge Commercial.
I saw the land places. I didn't know if you're looking for.
Yeah, we've identified 13 facilities. So part of
Okay.
our model is that we're intending to lease for the
So
first
that
3 or 4
rent's
years.
based on what you think you can lease it for then?
Yes,
Okay,
and
sorry,
and
that
we've
was my
already
question.
run those numbers and they check out. We have more allotted in our lease line
Yeah.
than what that facility costs. We also have capital funds for the
Okay.
kind of renovation
Oh, yeah,
and upkeep that we need to do in year, and that grows over time. We hope by year 4 or 5, we're looking to, if you look in our
Yeah, I
budget,
saw it.
that number grows exponentially because we hope that's when we're investing in a permanent facility and home. But sort of my background is we're just planning to lease, potential district partnership to save funds in the early years, to build up a fund balance, get a better credit profile, to get more favorable terms.
Okay, Ms. Jeffries?
Hi, I was a teacher, so I have a teacher question, and I'm going to build on what Mr. Hollingshed said. You said you're going to train teachers to do all these things. Teachers do many things. What about wraparound services? Because teachers, as much as we want to be everything for all students, it's really impossible with the job that we have to do. And I'm talking about the kind of things that he was mentioning.
Sure, thank you for that question. So I would, within our budget, we do have a staffing chart, and I would encourage you to look there. So we've built some of those other positions within a school, guidance counselor, academic deans, principals, within our leadership structure to handle some of those concerns that come up on a daily basis. Part of our model is that we have designed our schedule, our daily schedule, our weekly schedule, such that teachers are focusing on creating and delivering high-quality lesson plans every day. Because we believe for scholar growth that as they focus on delivering high-quality instruction, that's the best return on our teachers that we can get. And so we've built other supports within our staffing model through some of those community partnerships to address some of those wraparound services. And we want to be a community partner to those other organizations in town that provide some of those services.
Thank you.
Okay. This concludes our session. One question, Reverend Collins.
Two questions.
If you can, make your comments very brief, because we do have a schedule we have to follow. Go ahead.
Sure.
I was looking at your budget, so you anticipate about $18,000 fund balance the first year?
Yes, sir. That is without any P&I and Title I revenue.
Right. So what's going to make your fund balance grow that following year?
Conservative management of our budget. We as a board are committed to being fiscally conservative around our budget. So the way we plan for revenues, plan for expenditures, and it's a balance, honestly, because we want to invest in our program, but we also know, especially I know, having been a regulator of charter schools, we had to close schools who get into financial trouble. And so we've built our budget around not ever having to go down that path. So we built our budget to be conservative, underestimating revenues, over-projecting expenses. And at the end of that, we expect to run, we're using taxpayer money. And so we want to run a school that is fiscally responsible and delivers a high-quality education for taxpayers.
What funds have you set aside for transportation? How do you plan to transport children to school, or you're offering transportation?
Yes, sir, we are going to offer transportation. There is a line item for that. We've estimated about $50,000 per bus. To be brief, I won't get into how we did that, but we believe that's a fair market rate around some of the options we have for contracted providers or bringing buses onto our organization. But we believe we can transport a large number of scholars given that $50,000 per unit estimation, and then that grows with inflation over time in our
Same per
budget.
bus, you're saying?
Per bus, yes.
And how many buses roughly?
So in year 1, it's 1, year 2, it's 2, year 3 is 3, 3, then
All right.
year 4.
Okay.
It grows over time to match the growth of our student population.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you so kindly for your presentation. I will entertain a motion now to go into executive session.
So moved. Special call board meeting first.
We're going to go back into open session. And prior to beginning open session, I would like to acknowledge and remember 4 former CCSD students. They all passed away since our last meeting. And I'd like to read a short quote that says, "Life is too short to wake up in the morning with regrets. So to love the people who treat you right, forgive the ones who don't, and believe that everything happens for a reason. If you get a chance, take it. If it changes your life, let it. Nobody said it will be easy. They just said it will be worth it." Charlie Fishburne Rhodes IV was a student at Mount Pleasant Academy. He passed away on March 26, 2019. The celebration of life service was held on March 31st, 2019. Alexander Matthias Hopkins Cuffle Barbanell was a senior at the School of the Arts. He passed away on Thursday, April 4th, 2019. His mother, Amy Laura Barbanell, is an educator at James Allen Charter High School. His funeral services will be held Wednesday, April 10th, 2019, in the J. Henry Stir Downtown Chapel, 232 Calhoun Street at 2 p.m. The family will receive friends Tuesday from 6 p.m. until 8 p.m. in the Stir's Downtown Chapel. Elizabeth Daniel was a senior at Wando High School. She passed away on April 7th, 2019. Her services are still being finalized. Keith Shim was a Citadel student and a 2018 Wando graduate. He passed away on April 7th, 2019. His services are still being finalized. I'm going to take a moment to pause to remember these students. Gracious Father, we thank you, Lord, for life. We thank you for health, and we thank you for strength. And God, I ask that you look upon these families. I ask that you touch them and give them strength and give them guidance. God, I ask that you look upon the students and the faculty and staff that has touched and affected these students' lives. I ask that you give them strength during this time of bereavement hour. Look upon this district as a whole. We ask blessings right now in the name of Jesus, that you too will give us strength as we show support and loving care to these families. I ask protection upon all of our students here in CCSD and abroad, that you will continue to protect and guide them. I thank you now for these blessings in your Son Jesus Christ's name, for Christ's sake. Amen. I will now entertain a motion for item
I move to
Item number-
approve the sale of the surplus D2 building in favor of using the proceeds in order to buy the 2 acres adjacent to the school property.
Item 4A?
Item 4A.
Yep.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second for approval on item 4A. Ask that you please cast your vote. Motion passed, 6 yes, 1 no, and one of our members not present. Item 4B, entertain a motion.
I move that the board not approve the application of Compass Collegiate Academy based on the application not meeting the following standards as outlined by the South Carolina Code. 1, serving students with disabilities and special populations, as the application is deficient in the areas designated as requirements by the South Carolina statutes 49-40-50, B1, and 59-40-60, F5. 2, goals, objectives, and assessment plan, as the application is deficient in areas designed as requirements by the South Carolina statute 59-40-60, F5 and 6. 3, employees, as the application does not possess the applicable requirements under South Carolina statute 59-40-60 F13. 4, transportation, as the application does not meet the requirements set forth in the South Carolina statute 59-46 F10. And 5, facilities, as the application does not meet the required standards set forth in the South Carolina statute 59-40-60 F11. Additionally, financial estimates show the opening of the school will have an adverse effects on other schools in CCSD, as it will affect the enrollment, funding, allocations, and resources we would otherwise be able to provide for our own schools. For these reasons, I move that the board deny the application.
Okay, is there a second on that motion?
Second.
All right, so properly moved and second. We ask that you please cast your vote.
Motion was to deny.
Yes.
Can I make a statement? A comment really about the motion? Matt?
I'm sorry, say again?
I want to make a question, well, statement really. I understand the efforts of the group coming before us today, that they've seen that the growing disparity in Charleston County School District and try to address that, and I applaud them for that. But we do need to reach all children and educate all the same. And that's been an ongoing problem before I got on the school board over 10 years ago, and it still exists today. And I think this is why we see charter schools rising up. We try to fill that gap, and when we leave it today, I'm hoping that we will establish something that we're going to address the children that aren't being educated equally. And then there won't be a need for other groups to come up to fill that void for us. But they recognize something that's really important, because every week children are falling by the wayside, because they're being arrested, they're committing murder, they're falling to drugs, and this really is our fault that we have not addressed the concerns that charter school has presented to us today, that the kids aren't being educated. So my vote is, I would vote yes for the charter school myself, but the way the motion is voted, I would have to vote according to the motion, because no is voting yes for the charter school.
Okay, cast your votes, please.
Yes?
You have to cast your vote.
It did.
So we turned her, she's gone, we got her out of the system.
Got it. Are you waiting on someone, Julie? No? Okay, 4 yes, 3 no's, that motion passes. Item 4C,
On the screen, yeah.
Can you scroll that down, Julie, anyway?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion on item 4C, Reverend Mack,
all right, just one
Hold
second.
on, let him.
Just one
let him
second.
see that then.
and D.
Do a voice vote at the chair's request.
Or,
Limit on the screen
or
size.
can you ask Julie just to tell us what the votes are? Eric? Yeah.
Right, we're on item 4C right now.
Well, the Compass folks asked if we could tell them what the votes were.
Can you,
For, yes,
can you
What
Can you
happened?
scroll it down or read it off, Julie?
I'm confused.
Okay.
No, I voted for
Darby,
your,
yes.
your motion, which
Reverend
meant
Collins, no.
you were,
And I
Ms.
voted
Coates,
the wrong
yes.
way.
Reverend Matt, no. Mr. Hollenshed, yes. Ms. Jeffrey, no. And Mr. Garrett, yes.
So you vote against your own motion?
I was confused.
I know, I see that.
You vote against your own motion?
I vote for the motion that I read.
No, you vote against it.
All right,
I would like to vote for the motion I read.
Yes, yes.
can we redo it then?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, we're going to call for revote on the motion for clarity. Does anyone have any questions about the motion that was made?
So the motion, if you accept, if you say aye, it's to not
Right.
grant the charter, right? Okay.
Y'all want to just say it, or do you want to, so I can put it
You
in?
can just say it.
Ms. Darby?
I vote yes.
Reverend Collins,
I
no.
vote no.
Ms. Coates? Yes. Reverend Matt?
Yes.
Mr. Hollenshed?
Yes.
Ms. Jeffrey? Yes. Mr. Garrett?
Yes.
Ms. Green is not present.
All right, you want to tell us the final vote, Julie?
Let's see, 1, 2, 3. 6 ayes, 1 nay, and 1 not present at vote.
Okay. All right, item 4C.
I
I
can
have
make a motion, please. I've already told them. C and D, matter of fact,
Well,
for
So
first,
you're going to make a motion
We're
to
gonna
combine
do-
C and D?
No.
with different results of both one.
So then let's do them
Although-
individually.
Just one,
Item C.
item 4C.
I have a motion.
Is there a motion?
I told you earlier before. Yes, so my motion is that, 4C would be referred back to the, Office of, Student Placement, Alternative Programs. Maybe I might have seen D mixed
Well,
up.
they're on what- let-
The IEP team.
Let-
talking about
Let me make the
E.
motion.
Hold one
sorry,
second,
okay.
hold one second.
Can I make?
Reverend Collins,
Go ahead, I'll second the motion, go ahead.
Reverend Collins, are you making your motion?
Go ahead, I'll let Kate make it, I'll second it, if it's the right one.
Motion to place the student at Turning Point Academy. This is the right one?
Yeah, but that's, yes.
So my motion is that we place the
Second.
student at Turning Point Academy.
The next one.
Properly moving second, item 4C.
It's not coming up for me.
Came up and then it went away without me voting. I just opened it, do y'all not have?
No.
It came up and then it went, or we're losing our internet connection. That might be.
We
what
do
it is.
voice
Y'all
vote?
like to vote?
All right, we'll do by voice. Ms. Jeffries, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Darby?
Aye.
Mr. Hollenshed?
Aye.
Ms. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Garrett?
Yes.
Reverend Collins?
Yes.
I vote yes.
I
Motion-
moved to uphold the D20. I'm sorry.
Item 4D.
Mr. Chair, point of order. I don't think we have our internet connection. Can we have somebody work on that?
Yep, okay.
Okay, so the motion for D was uphold the constituent board.
Yes.
Todd made a motion and I seconded, right? Okay.
I'm sorry.
Ms. Jeffries, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Darby?
Yes.
Mr. Hollenshed?
Yes.
Ms. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Garrett?
Yes.
Reverend Collins?
No.
And I vote yes. Motion passed 7-1,
The-
6-1.
Hold on. She did.
Was that 4D?
Yep.
Yes.
I'll, I'll bring it up.
What was the motion?
Julie, I'll bring it over to you.
Uphold the decision
D
board.
was to
Uphold the-
uphold D20 constituent board.
I have a motion for E.
As soon as we can get through with 4D. Julie, are you on track?
I'm trying. Give me just a second.
Okay.
I lost internet connection.
I think the system's down. We told them we had a problem before executive session, so we may have to just.
Who made that motion, please?
I did.
Todd did and I seconded.
Okay. I know, that's what's needed. Yeah.
didn't you vote no?
Yes.
And the last one, yes.
Everybody else
Mhm.
voted yes.
Mhm.
Okay, so she's good. Now, can I make a motion on E?
Mhm.
Julie, you have the recorded?
Yes.
All right. Item 4E.
I move that we return the student to the school for the IEP team to consider alternate placement.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Ms. Jeffries, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Darby?
Yes.
Mr. Hollenshed?
Yes,
Ms. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Garrett?
Yes.
Reverend Collins?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion passes. Okay, there's no action on item 4F. All right, is this moving?
I have a motion for 5B when we get there.
All right, just one second. Okay, item 5A.
Item 5A and 5C were approved as part of the improvement of the agenda.
5A and 5B.
B wasn't, D, not B.
5A and D.
5A and D, correct. And it's moving slow. All right, item 5B.
5B, I move that we suspend the 2 reading requirement of policy VG/BGD and approve the passing of a new board meeting protocol policy effective immediately after only 1 reading.
Second.
Properly
Question.
moved in second.
Question.
Question, Reverend Collins?
I'm a little bit concerned with that process on both counts. The suspending the policy to require two meetings, 2 approvals, unless we're in an emergency status or someone's posing a threat to the school district or students. I don't know why we wouldn't get to the habit. If we set a protocol today that we can approve a board meeting protocol policy in 1 meeting. What's the stop us from approving other policies in 1 meeting that someone wants to pass? So unless there's no life or health or safety reasons, I don't see the need for it. So this is actually 2 things. She wants to approve the other policy in 1 motion. So the other part of the board meeting protocol, the new policy being presented, it needs work. It needs a lot of work. Because this policy, not only is dealing with the public, it's dealing with staff, dealing with board members, but it doesn't really spell out who is the judge or the interpreter.
Mr. Chair, point of clarification, we're voting on a motion that the gentleman is not discussing,
No, we are. She said, but she mentioned both.
but the motion before us
Just
is,
for the one, just for,
Suspending the one first?
yes, that's all the
Right.
motion.
All right, we'll do that one first then. All right, but I still disagree with it, that we shouldn't suspend the rules to pass a policy in a hurry unless it's a life or safety issue or a threat to our students.
Okay, 5B has been moved and seconded. Julie?
That should be called supermajority.
Mr. Chair,
Miss-
if I may, I would point out that the first November board meeting in 2012, Rainbow Collins voted to suspend this motion for a non-emergency status. It's in the minutes.
Okay. Ms. Jeffries, how do you vote? Julie, are you
Yep, yes.
electronically?
Yep, she got it.
I voted.
It's-
It's working now.
All right. Mr. Hollenshed, I think we're waiting on you.
You got it now.
Okay.
And for clarification, doesn't need a supermajority
No,
No,
to suspend the policy?
no. The policies are right there. If you click on
Yeah,
the top right, you
I-
can
All
review
right.
it
All right.
I have it in my
yourself.
hand.
Motion passed, 5 yes, 1 nay, and 1 abstention. Item 5C.
I move to approve policy XXS board meeting protocol.
This is the one I speak about, Jim.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Reverend Collins, you still
Yes, sir.
want to
Yes.
repeat what you said earlier?
Yes, sir. The policy address certain things. It's addressed searches are one which shouldn't be in here, this policy.
Wait, I couldn't hear you.
It addresses searches at all, searching people's person, a search, but this is not the place for that. The other one, it talks about the board members' behavior, staff behavior, the public's behavior, all in one policy. But it doesn't describe how we identify when the rules are being broken or who is to enforce that based on how the board established what a disturbance is or what a disruption is. It speaks about repeating things, so that could be disturbance if you repeat something. It goes further, talk about if you bring a sign in, you're toting a sign. People bring signs all the time to our meetings in support of their groups. They want us to support Head Start, kindergarten. Maybe they support the superintendent, or maybe they're against certain programs. So then we impose on people's freedom of speech. And we should have no policy that address people's freedom to express themselves, or a policy that's designed to control somebody, to get us to desired end where we want to be. And so to me, this policy is too personal in nature, and I recommend that it goes back to the committee of the whole to be discussed further.
Okay, item 5C has been properly moved and second. Julie, are you ready to? I haven't seen it yet. Oh, did I vote already?
I got it. We got it.
Did I vote already? Okay. Okay, motion passed, 5 yes, 2 nay. Item 5.
What is the count?
Done that
All right,
way.
that's it.
What's the count?
5, cheers up on the screen.
5-2.
Move to adjourn.
All right, so move.
Second.